ज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। नमो ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिन् इति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वती देवी गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण। क्षमा करिएगा, समाव मैंने कोई अलग लिंक स्टार्ट कर दिया था।
कोई बात नहीं, नो प्रॉब्लम।
Okay, so we'll continue our discussion on chapter number 3. So we have discussed yesterday, on Monday, from verse 1 and 3. Actually, on Monday, we have recapped chapter 1 and chapter 2. And then we have seen that this section are available in sections of chapter number 3. And then we discussed a few verses. Basically, verse number 3, we discussed elaborately. I will try to recap it very quickly and then we'll proceed ahead. So, this chapter number 5 has 5 sections. Chapter number 3 has 5 sections. And the first one is where Arjuna becomes confused and he asks a question. So what to do? Renunciation is better or work is better? So please clear my doubts. And because you are saying that buddhi yoga, buddhi is better than karma, and you are still engaging me in battlefield. So what is better? So Krishna then clears Arjuna's doubt. So second section is in his Kam Karma Yoga, where Krishna says that working is better than Jnana Yoga. Right? And then third section where Krishna elevates, he talks him more about Karma Kanda, and he asks him to elevate to Karma Yoga. So what is Karma Kanda and what is Karma Yoga? That is being described there. And then after that he says that Niskam, perform your duty, do duty Niskam as a Niskam Karma Yoga to set example in the society. And in fifth session, Krishna concludes by to conquer lust, and which is the greatest enemy. Right. So in first two slokas, Arjuna asks a question to Krishna, then please clarify my doubt. And then Krishna starts speaking about the verse 3, Sri Bhagavan Uvacha, Loke Ashmin Dividha Nishtha. So we discussed two Dividha Nishtha is one is Jnana Yoga and one is that is called as Sankhya Yoga. Jnana Yoga, Sankhya Yoga, they are interchangeably used, and then is Karma Yoga. So in Karma Yoga, we have seen very nicely and elaborately discussed that how these two are actually interlinked. These are not independent, they are dependent to each other. And we have seen what Prabhupada says that philosophy and religion, they both are interdependent. It's not like what do you say? It's not like independent. They are interlinked. We cannot do one and it should not avoid one. So both go one to end. Like philosophy without religion is called as mental speculation, and religion without philosophy is sentimental, right? And we discussed elaborately like these two Vidya Shaktis, Sankhya Yoga and Buddhi Yoga, their processes and how they differ. However, they comes to the same point. They connect at last to Krishna, but this process of Sankhya Yoga or philosophical speculations is very difficult, and it depends upon our personal endeavor. There is an uncertainty of success. However, on the other hand, Bhakti Yoga or Buddhi Yoga or Krishna consciousness, he says directly we can connect with Krishna. That's how this process is easy and dependent on Krishna's mercy, his devotee mercy, and surety of success is there. Right. So these two way we have discussed in verse number 3, and the ultimate goal is basically to understand the relationship between God himself and ourselves. So soul and super soul, what is the relationship between these two? I am and Lord Krishna. What is the relationship between two? That is the ultimate goal. The process we can go through a gradually elevate ourselves by studying this by through analytical process or through directly working for Krishna or Karma Yoga or Niskam Karma Yoga or Buddhi Yoga. Right. I'll read a quote. Prabhupada says karma means fruit of activity. So everyone is working in this world to get some result, and somebody is working in business, earning millions of dollars yearly. Why he is earning? He is earning for his sense gratification. As soon as he has got money, he changes his car, he changes his apartment, changes his standard of life only for increasing. And this whole world is working so hard, and the result is that increasing their objects of sense gratification, and that is called karma. And karma means to enjoy the results of your activity. And what is karma yoga? When it is karma yoga, that means the activities which is your occupation, you can engage yourself in that activity, but don't engage the result for your sense gratification, but for satisfaction of Krishna. So developing an attitude to serve Krishna and at the same time working, that is karma yoga. Right. So karma, do your activity, but offer the results to Krishna. And we'll continue ahead today on chapter 4. Sorry, verse 4. Very, very important verse. And anyway, all the verses are very important, but it gives us more philosophical understanding about what karma is, how karma yoga acts, kind of thing. Prabhupada writes in the purport that the ultimate goal is Krishna. So because the philosophers who are also sincerely searching for the absolute truth come in the end to Krishna consciousness, and this is also stated in the Bhagavad Gita. And the whole process is to understand the real position of the self in relation to the super self. And this is the direct process. And indirect process is philosophical speculation, by which gradually one may come to the point of Krishna consciousness, and the other process is directly, and this process is directly connecting, and the other process is Bhakti Yoga, is directly connecting to Krishna in Krishna consciousness. And this philosophical speculation is an indirect process. Okay. So the verse number 4, where Krishna starts going ahead, he says very nicely that how just by not performing activity, one cannot get even perfection. Nor, right? So that says, Prabhupada says, the verse says, na karmanam anarambham naishkarmanyam purusho snute na cha sanyasnyad eva siddhim samadhi gacchati na cha sanyasnadeva siddhim samadhi gacchati. So not by merely abstracting from work can one achieve freedom from reactions, nor by renunciation alone can one attain perfection. So that what that means basically, it says that just giving up the work is not a solution, right? So Prabhupada says the renounced order of life can be accepted. So we are talking about giving up or engaging ourselves in activity, or engaging ourselves in our duty, right? So Arjuna asking that I want to go away. So and Krishna is asking to engage in work. So now Krishna is saying that the giving of things or renunciating alone, one cannot attain perfection. How? He says the renounced order of life can be accepted when one has purified by the discharge of prescribed form of duties. So the duties which we perform is actually for our purification as well. And then Prabhupada continues on the purport, saying that these duties are laid down just to purify the hearts of materialistic men. And without purification, one cannot attain success by abruptly adopting the fourth order of life sannyasa. So without proper purification, if you want to just give up things and take sannyasa, that will actually bring up havoc in the society. right? So purification is required, and unless one becomes purified, then he could actually take sannyas. Otherwise, he should be engaged himself in doing activities, regular activities, and offer the results to Lord Sri Krishna. Right, and then it's being mentioned here that like how these things happen. Like, if Arjuna says, okay, if I renounce the work, then it's better for me. And the example is being given that to understand that this work is not binding us, right? We have talked this many times, that work doesn't bind us. What binds us is the desire to enjoy the results of the fruits. So whatever we whatever we do, perform a duty, we get some result, and when we have the desire to enjoy it, that actually binds us. And how the work doesn't bind, sorry, it's a very difficult topic, but I'll try to explain it. So why karma cannot bind? He says, if you see the example, I think Radheshyam Prabhu was giving in his one of the class, he says, see the birds and the animals, isn't it? They don't have any prescribed duties or religious prescribed duties for them, isn't it? And even also you understood that apart from human life, in other species, there is no karma bandhan too, right? So there is no karma bandhan in animals' life. And then they perform their duty very nicely. Then why don't they get salvation? Why don't they get free from, why don't they get liberation? Because they are doing their work properly. A dog is doing his work properly, a tiger is doing. So if you see animals, even a tiger, his duty is not to eat grass, and though he is in forest, but he don't eat anything. He is just relying on eating meat. In a similar way, a cow, a horse, they are just relying on vegetables, right? So that is the way, like these animals, they perform their only prescribed duty. They do not deviate from their duties, but still they do not get liberation, isn't it? So in a similar way, we living entity are there. When we perform, we have our duty to perform. So but the real cause is, just by giving up the duties, we are not going to get renunciation, right? So I'll say it again. So what is saying that is basically premature renunciation is discouraged. So without purifying ourselves, as of now, if you see, Arjuna's wanted to renounce only because that he don't want to kill his kinsman. There is no other way to renounce. So definitely at the after getting the kingdom, Yudhishthira Maharaj and the Pandavas, they renounced the world. When the time came, they given this their kingdom to Parikshit Maharaj, and they went. So at the time, it was not being asked them, okay, you should stay back here in your kingdom now, because the time was there. They have done their duties, and now they are renouncing. But this point of time, Arjuna is trying to renounce just for sake of his own sense gratification, because he don't want to fight. And Krishna is saying, no, it's basically it's premature renunciation, and which is not good. It is discouraged, right? So for us, what to take us for we have to purify our hearts by performing our prescribed duties, right? And by doing that, we purify ourselves, and then actually we will be available. We will be able to get salvation, right? So I'll repeat in a very short statement, like action is not the root cause of birth and death, and by avoiding action, we can free ourselves, or we cannot free ourselves by such cycle, as we take an example of birds and animals. So action does not actually is the root cause. The root cause is what? The the desire to enjoy the results of that, right? So we need to engage in our duty in a very positive approach. And what is that? We will see in next Krishna says what to do. How can we engage ourselves? Right? And Prabhupada mentioned one more thing, that according to empirical philosophers, there are some philosophers, as he says, Prabhupada says, simply by adopting sannyasa or retiring from fruitive activities, one at once become as good as Narayana. So there are some philosophers who think that by accepting sannyasa, they will become God himself. So he says, Danda Grana Matrana Nar Narayana Bhavit. So their philosophy is that if you take sannyasa, you becomes God, you becomes Narayana. So that is a very, 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 very wrong philosophy. And Prabhupada says that, but Lord Krishna does not approve the principles. Without purification of heart, sannyasa is simply a disturbance to a social order. And on the other hand, if someone takes to the transcendental service of the Lord, even without discharging his prescribed duties, whatever he may be able to advance in the cause is accepted as Buddhi Yoga, and this is accepted by the Lord. So, Swalpamasya Dharmasya Trayata Mahatva Bhayat is in chapter 2. Krishna says, even a slight performance of such a principle enables one to overcome great difficulties. Right. So, the point is, giving up the things is not a solution. Yeah, we can give up things when we are completely purified. When time comes, we can do that. And now Krishna continues in chapter, verse 5. He says, Nahi kasya charam api jato tishthay akarma kret karyate hai avashah karma sarva prakriti jay gunai. So what is that? Everyone is forced to act helplessly according to the qualities he has acquired from the modes of material nature. Therefore, no one can refrain from doing something, not even for a moment. So everyone is forced to act helplessly. So we think we are independent, isn't it? We think we are controller. But now this verse says, Krishna clearly mentioned that everyone is forced to act helplessly. We are actually acting helplessly according to the qualities of three modes what we have acquired. So someone has got passion for money, and he's working and working. And someone is dominated by ignorance, so he's engaged himself in so many different uh, irreligious activities. So in a similar way, everyone is somehow or other helplessly acting or working on this helplessly acting on these three modes, right? Let's see what next Prabhupada mentions in this purport. Prabhupada mentions that he emphasizes again on this bhakti yoga. He says, if when actually Prabhupada starts, he says, it is not a question of embodied life, but it is the nature of the soul to be always active. So how we are active? This verse says that we are always engaged in our helplessly are engaged in duty because of three modes. Prabhupada says that this is because the soul is always active. The nature of soul is always active, right? And without the presence of the spirit soul, the metal body even cannot move. So what to do any activities? So this body does activities because there is a soul present in the body. Otherwise, it's just a dead vehicle. And Prabhupada mentioned that this body is only a dead vehicle to be worked by the spirit soul, which is always active and cannot stop even for a moment. Right? It's like the body is like the vehicle, the car. So car is there, car maybe very 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 costly car is there, but the car, it needs a driver. Car can't operate without a driver. It's in the similar way, this body may be born in very rich family or very opulent or there, but again, if there is no soul, its bodies become again as useless as that body, right? And Prabhupada says, so the spirit soul acquires material modes, and to purify the soul from such affinities, it is necessary to engage in the prescribed duties enjoined in the Shastras. So what to do? The duties with alignment of the Shastras. That is how we can get purified. So we can say, someone say, okay, a duty performed by a thief is also karma. Can't is getting purified? No, isn't it? So if we do some stealing, we are going to get caught by police. So what to do? We need to align our duties in the alignment with Shastra. So we need to engage our prescribed duties with Shastra. What Shastra advises us. And however, Prabhupada again takes to the higher level in his purport again, saying that, but if the soul is engaged in its natural function of Krishna consciousness, and whatever he is able to do so is good for him. So anyone who is trying to perform some activities or some devotional service towards Lord Sri Krishna in Krishna consciousness, and whatever he is able to do is actually good for him, because the process of devotional service actually start purifying us. And Prabhupada quotes from Srimad Bhagavatam that if someone takes to Krishna consciousness, even though he may not follow the prescribed duties in the Shastras or execute the devotional service properly, and even though he may fall down from the standard, there is no loss or evil for him. But if he carries out all the injunctions for purification in the Shastra, what does it avail him if he is not Krishna consciousness? So performing even Shastras, devoiding of Krishna is also not recommended. So the purificatory process is necessary for reaching this point of Krishna consciousness, and therefore sannyasa or any purification process is to help reach the ultimate goal of becoming Krishna conscious, without which everything is considered a failure. So see, the ultimate goal is somehow or other we need to have is like some the people even in this material world, they say that you should have the vision or you should have the goal where you are working for. And if you don't have the vision or goal, you will actually hankering here and there. You don't know where you have to go, where you are going. So in a similar way, in our devotional service, we should know the goal is actually to get the love of Godhead. Even liberation is not the goal. The goal is to get the Krishna prema. How can we get that? How can we revive this relationship with Krishna, in that loving relationship with Krishna? That is the real goal. And for that, we can work according to the Shastras, what Shastra provides and what Shastra says. How can we, keeping the goal in the mind, we can act accordingly what Shastra provides. Like Shastra says that chanting of holy name is the way to revive our relationship with Krishna in Kali Yuga. So goal is there, and this is the process. So goal is there. We need to get out of this bondage, or get out of this birth the cycle. How can we do that? Krishna explains that in very soon in chapter 3, verse 13. There Krishna says what to do, and by basically offering food to Krishna and eating that food as a prasadam, that actually has no bondage. We'll see that again Krishna what says in verse 13, and even Krishna says in verse 12 that everyone in this material world is actually a thief. We'll see it according going forward. So let's see verse number 6. And now Krishna is saying that even no one can live without working, right? And what he says that if one tries to act on it whimsically, he becomes a pretender. Right. So karmenendriyani samyamya ya aste manasasmanam indriyarthan vimuddhatma mithyachara uchyate. Mithyachara means a pretender. So what is saying? One who restrains the senses of action but whose mind dwells on sense object is certainly dwells himself and is called a pretender. So what it is, very small example we can take it, like someone has a disease, like let's for example diabetic. So in diabetics we know that person is actually not allowed to eat sweets, isn't it? However, the desire to eat sweet has not been gone away from the person. He is not eating sweet just because doctor suggested that you will be in trouble. But as soon as he gets some time, or we see he says that okay, my sugar level has gone in a stable condition now, he starts eating sweets. So that's a very material example. But the point here is saying that anyone who tries to restrain from senses of action, but so whose mind dwells on sense objects, but still he want to enjoy it, but he just for the sake of other people, he's just trying to restrain himself, but actually he want to enjoy it. So that person becomes a pretender. So basically you are showing up something and thinking of something, you're speaking something, and at the back you are doing something. That is pretender. And Prabhupada says that there are many pretenders who refuse to work in Krishna consciousness but make a show of meditation. So while actually dwelling within the mind upon sense enjoyment, so such pretenders may also speak on dry philosophy in order to bluff sophisticated followers. But according to this verse, these are the greatest cheaters. So for sense enjoyment, one can act in any capacity of social order, but if one follows the rules and regulations of his particular status, he can make gradual process in purifying his existence. So need to understand that where my desire is and gradually working upon it, not just giving up the things just for showing people, right? So that's this verse number 5th says, sorry, 6th. So we'll just try to recap what is saying that as of now what we've gone. So soul is always active in nature, right? And hence it actually always engage in activities. And this soul has come in contact with material nature, so he acquires 3 modes of material nature. And according to this prescribed or this material modes of nature, they are prominent in the person. They are prescribed duties for the person. However, there are prescribed duties in the shastras as well, and a person should act on those prescribed duties because they purify the soul from these all whimsical desires, and gradually it leads to Krishna consciousness. And if that doesn't, then basically it becomes a failure, right? And similar way, if we have the desire but just try to restrain it, then it might become whimsical as well. And also it's being described earlier that in the process of bhakti yoga there is no loss even if there is even there is fall down, right? So that's basically a summary of chapter verse 5 and verse 6. Prabhupada's in the purport that says, people they used to refuse to work in Krishna consciousness, make a show of meditation. I know this sometimes there are many dry philosophers, and they bluff. And I was hearing a lecture sometime back, says that there are so many Bhagavatam sessions are happening in India, across India every time, but how many people are actually getting purified their heart. So we know that by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, we get purified. So how many people are getting purified? The reason being is that the one who is speaking Srimad Bhagavatam, he is speaking with some self-motivation or self-motivated. I have some large followers, or my intention is to gather good money by speaking very nicely, or with making some funny things for the audience so that they like my talks. So that is how, if the intention is to goes towards that, then it's not actually impacting the audience. And that's why we see there are so many Bhagavad Gita goes on, but purification is not happening, right? So that's one way we can show that this is deviating from the real goal of Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita, right? And Prabhupada mentions in this verse purport as well. He says, uh, he who makes a show of being a yogi while actually searching for the objects of sense gratification must be called the greatest cheater, even though he sometimes speaks philosophy. So his knowledge has no value, because the effects of such a sinful man's knowledge are taken away by the illusory energy of the Lord. Such a pretender's mind is always impure, and therefore his show of with yogic meditation has no value whatsoever. I remember in this context one thing. Uh, let's suppose, for example, if someone says, okay, you should not do smoking, because smoking actually goes towards cancer. It degrades your lungs and your respiratory systems, and another. However, if the same person, after giving the talk, he went out for a break and he's smoking, so do we think that that person's talk is going to impact us? Maybe he might be giving so many scientific reasons that, okay, you should not smoke, this happened, that happened, this happened, that happens, but the person is actually, he's not performing by his own. So that's how Prabhupada says such a pretender's mind is always impure, and therefore this person who is actually giving a very great conference that, you should not smoke, he's just doing it for earning money, and as soon as he go out, himself starts smoking. So there is no value of the point, though he might be getting good money because of maybe a good speaker having very nice vocabularies, and it might be very pleasing to the audience, but the essence of the talk is not being fulfilled by himself as well. And I was hearing long back a lecture. They said there was a author who wrote about uh, how to make good friends. I'm not getting the proper line, I think like that. How to make good friends, but the person doesn't have any friend. He died by doing suicide. So we are trying to teach something, but we are actually not implementing in our own self. So how does going to work? Right? That's how these are called as pretenders. And Krishna says this person as mithya acharaha. So mithya achara means doing activities, or the way, and mithya means in the opposite way. So we are acting in a way to show something, but actually within our heart we are thinking something else, right? And there are so many examples we can see in our societies. And next, in 7th verse, Krishna now says about the sincere person who he tried to work in karma yoga or Krishna consciousness. He say, yasto indriyani manasha niyama arabhate Arjuna karmendriya karma yogam asakta sa vishishyate. On the other hand, if a sincere person tries to control the active senses by the mind and begins karma yoga in Krishna consciousness without attachment, he is by far superior. Right. So what it is, basically we need to understand our own position, and then gradually try to understand how can we proceed ahead. Right. So that's how it says. So Sixth verse says that one who restrains senses, but the mind dwells in sense objects, becomes a pretender. However, in seventh verse, Krishna explains the one sincere person. He he understands that yes, my mind is flickering, but he tries to control the mind and engage in karma yoga. He's trying to engage as far as scriptures without attachment is much more better than the pretenders. Prabhupada says it is far better to remain in one's own business and execute the purpose of life, which is to get free from the material bondage and enter into the kingdom of God. Right. So that's the seventh verse. And a nice example Prabhupada gives here in the purport itself. He says, a sincere person who follows this method is far better situated than the false pretender who adopts so bottled spiritualism to cheat the innocent public. A sincere sweeper in the street is far better than the charlatan meditator who meditates only for the sake of making a living. So he's a sincere sweeper. He's working very sincerely. At the same time, he can try to work in Krishna consciousness. He's much more better than a cheater meditator. Right. We'll try to go one or two more verses. Let's see. Okay. Let's try to go one more verse. नियतं कुरु कर्म त्वं कर्म ज्यायायो हय कर्मणा शरीरायार्थापि चाहते न प्रसिद्ध्योत कर्मणः. Perform your prescribed duty. That's the instructions now Krishna is giving. Perform your prescribed duties. For doing so, it is better than not working. And one cannot even maintain one's physical body without work. So even to maintain our physical body, we have to work. So it is better to perform your prescribed duty. So because Arjuna is in the state of a Kshatriya and he is in the middle of battlefield, so his duty, his prescribed duty for time now is actually to fight the war. So Krishna is saying perform your prescribed duty. Do not go towards renunciation because it's not purified yet. So Prabhupada says there are many pseudo meditators who misrepresents themselves as belonging to high parentage and great professionals, a man who falsely pose that they have sacrificed everything for the sake of advancement in spiritual life. And Lord Krishna did not want Arjuna to become a pretender. So rather the Lord desired that Arjuna perform his prescribed duties to set an example as Kshatriya, or to set an example for all Kshatriyas. And Arjuna was a householder and a military general, and therefore it was better for him to remain as such and perform his prescribed duty as a Kshatriya. Right? And this Prabhupada mentioned that such activities will gradually cleanse the heart of even for a mundane man and free him from mental contamination. Right. So Krishna again says to Arjuna by answering his question of what to do, he says, no, you should perform your prescribed duty. And this is a very nice and important verse, and how to work for Krishna and what to do. So we'll discuss tomorrow on Monday, the verse number 9, and continue from there, where he says, Krishna says, work done as a sacrifice for Vishnu has to be performed, and otherwise the work causes bondage in this material world. Right, and therefore, O son of Kunti, perform your prescribed duties for his satisfaction, and in that way you will be always remain free from bondage. We wanted to become free from bondage, and it is Mukta Sangha Samachara. Krishna says in the word, Tadartham Karma Kaunteya Mukta Sangha Samachara. So what is the way? Yajnartha Karmano Anyatra Loke Yam Karma Bandhanat. So work and Tadartham Karma Kaunteya Mukta Sangha Samachara. So work should be done, yajna works should be done for the work should be done as a sacrifice for Vishnu. Right. We'll elaborate on this point tomorrow. Sorry, on Monday, and we'll continue from there. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Any questions or thoughts? Or I'm sure I might have confused many things over here. Okay. ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भगवद गीता की
Jai.
श्रील प्रभुपाद की
Jai.
अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की
Jai.
हरे कृष्ण.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna. I think we might not